Hello, and welcome to Page Turners, a bookish podcast. Each week we choose a different book to read, and then we come together and we talk about it. Just think of us as your book club Boston Bears. Woo! On the ice. Just doing stuff. Each week you can read along with us and berate us for our wrong opinions, or cheer on the unlikely event that we get it right. That's Amy.
And that's Liv.
How have you been this week?
I've been okay. Work's was a bit of a today. Yeah.
Hello to all of Amy's work colleagues.
Yeah. Hi guys. I think they would agree, to be honest. Yeah, it was just one of those days that just started with a problem and then more problems came. So yeah. Happy to have finished at 4 o'clock. Cannot complain.
Cannot complain.
That is my working day.
Yeah. We saw each other outside of this room.
We did! We exist outside the podcast.
Some people may not think we do, but we do. Yeah.
And we didn't even milk it for content.
No, we should have.
We probably should have.
But,
yeah.
You know.
We went for a lovely Sunday lunch, didn't we?
We did! And then we had some delicious ice cream, as recommended by Amy and Rory.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about the ice cream?
Well, I went for Amy's recommendation of Ferrero Rocher, and it was smashing.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, but we'll have to take you to the Milk Barn. Because
Fair.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's better, but there's way more choice.
That's the only thing that lets that place down, is that it's very limited selection. Unless you just want to go for your standard, like strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, there's not much else.
For those actually interested or bothered, Allen Water Cafe in Bridge of Allen.
Yes. Beautiful place, Bridge of Allen.
Looks like they did fucking smashing fish and chips though as well. Yeah.
It's well worth going just for that. Like one nice sunny night, you guys should drive through and get a nice fish and chips and sit at the, you know how there's like a couple of benches just by the river? Just sit there.
Well, we went to go and sit by those benches, but some lazy bastards had already beaten us to it.
Everyone else had the same idea as us. Yeah.
What are you reading at the moment?
I am reading a contemporary romance.
What?
I know, and it's called The Devil and the Deep Blue Sea by Elizabeth O'Rourke.
Can I see the cover?
Now, you can.
Oh, wow, that is very of the time, isn't it?
Very of the time. However, this is supposed to have some of the most delicious angst ever. Also, The Devil and the Deep Blue Sea is not a contemporary romance title of which I was expecting. Like, you know, it's things like The Vacay! Or the, like, I don't know, Dicks at Dawn! I don't know. It's very much a contemporary romance storyline though. Okay. So the main character is asked to go to Hawaii with her estranged boyfriend to kind of rekindle things and like,
say, for some unknown reason.
Yeah. And when she arrives, he has been arrested and is in a Thai prison. Oh. And his family are there, including his brother. Oh. Who is a doctor, and he's like, looks down on her because she's a pop star.
Better than the other guy in every way.
Yeah.
Sorry, he looks down on her because she's a pop star?
Yeah, he just sees her as like vapid and, you know, like he's a doctor, he takes himself very seriously and he doesn't have any time for her. But he does because he secretly loves her.
Bit of grumpy sunshine, are we feeling?
I think so, but I actually like the fact that already we know that he likes her. So she thinks he hates her.
That comes out pretty quick.
It's dual POV.
Oh, very nice.
So you find out quite quickly that he actually holds a little candle for her, you know, and he's...
Interesting.
He doesn't like that. He does, and he's trying to do everything he can to like...
Oh, he almost hates himself.
Yeah.
Do we perhaps get my favourite ever thing that I text you about that I really want every time we read something that's potentially a little smutty?
Please go on.
It involves a shower.
Oh, I bet we do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yes, you do always text about that. Is that one of your, like, faves?
It gives me, like, just a real sense of, like, this is selling the angst for me.
I get it.
Basically, it's when a guy wanks in the shower.
You can't really deny... You can't deny the listeners what that is.
Sorry.
You have to tell them.
I was so, like, so vague about it to begin with. But, it's when a guy, like, wanks to the thought of his partner in the shower. Because he needs to get himself off. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the shower is, of course, the only place for it.
Of course. He hasn't yet.
Sorry, go on.
He hasn't yet.
Let us know.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. But also, despite the bathroom being the echoiest room that it is in existence, no one's going to hear that, obviously.
No. And in this case, they have hotel rooms next door to each other.
Adjoining rooms.
So...
Is there a door adjoining?
I don't think so, but there's like a split balcony.
Oh,
the almost shared balcony.
Someone's climbing that.
Oh, can't wait. But he's there with his girlfriend.
Oh!
So
interesting.
It feels very like summer fun, but apparently not. Apparently it is like very well written angst.
Okay, well, report back. Let us know. Yeah, I'll ask you next episode.
Mm-hmm.
Try and make a note to remember that.
What are you reading?
I have just finished Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson.
What a cheery title.
I know, yeah. Not really my bag normally, but a good murder mystery. Very sort of like, not locked room, but they are like stranded in a ski lodge. And it's written, the great thing about the book is it's written, the main character is a writer. He helps people write books but hasn't written one himself, so he writes it almost as if it's a real story. So it's very meta.
That's cool. I like that.
But it's I read it because I thought we would be able to do it for the podcast. But I mean, maybe if one point Amy reads it and loves it, maybe we will. But no, absolutely, I loved it. It's lots of different. Is it lots of different period? No, I don't think it is. But it sections out my mother, my brother, telling you how they've killed someone.
Oh wow!
And when it's brilliantly done.
So someone has died.
Yes.
And this main character is sort of, I guess, thinking about how they could have done it, or have they actually killed someone else? Like, is he thinking, oh, my mother could have done this in this way, or has his mother actually killed somebody else?
And nobody is free from suspicion except from the people that he clears immediately at the beginning. But then, as you go on, you get told their stories as to the past before this present time, as to who they've killed or how they've killed or what they've done.
Wow.
It's fucking great.
Twisty, turny.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Sometimes I find that murder mysteries do get themselves too twisty-turny because you end up with something that you never expect, and I hate that.
Yes.
But no, I really enjoyed it. I liked it very much. Fully recommend.
Okay. Thank you. I'll let you know if I recommend The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, maybe we should check back. Maybe we should do checkbacks.
Maybe we actually should, rather than just talking about a book once and then never talking about it again. Yeah.
But yeah, 5 stars. Maybe. I don't know, I forgot what I put it on Goodreads as. Maybe 4. Actually, that's a lie. I'm such a softie. Yeah, 5 stars.
5 stars. Every single book we ever read, apart from one, we've been like, would you recommend it to a friend? Yeah, I would.
Yeah, big softies here.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note... Okay, Amy, tell me what we're reading this week.
Well, we're actually going to do something a little bit different this week, Liv.
Oh, look at us.
I know.
Trailblazers.
So we haven't read one book, you lucky, lucky people. We've actually read 2 books.
Nearly did the siren. Stopped myself from doing it.
Nice, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
So we've read a part of a larger book series.
Yes.
2 books from, I think, maybe 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Yeah. The Game Changer series by Rachel Reid. And we have read book... 2, fair. And book
6.
Right, okay.
So 2 was Heated Rivalry,
Mm-hmm.
6 is The Long Game.
Correct, yeah.
Basically, bunch of... do we call it contemporary romance?
I would say so.
Set modern time.
I'd say maybe like a sport romance.
Yeah, definitely. Like, does it have its own specific genre of ice hockey romance? Or,
I think it might.
Or is it lumped in with hockey romance?
Maybe it's lumped in with hockey, but I think hockey certainly sits separate from football romance.
Oh wow, does it?
Yeah, because football romance is another thing.
Oh well, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get into that later.
Maybe.
Yeah. So the whole Game Changer series is like it's an open universe.
Mm-hmm.
Of ice hockey.
Yep.
And people, yeah, you've got two different main characters most of the time, unless it's a sequel, which is what we've done. And they then appear in the other books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We had intended to read the first one, and then and Amy started it, and then we discovered that the second one has more angst and is an enemies to lovers technically. So what were we to do? What were we to do?
The first one sounded lovely and very sweet. Like it was more of a traditional rom-com, I thought. You know, like they have a meet cute at the very start of the book, and it did sound like a good one. But I think we were looking for more angst, weren't we? And
yeah, my personal favourite moment was when I texted Amy being like, but are they interconnected? And you said, no, they're not. And then we got to the end of the first book of Heated Rivalry, and the main characters from the first book turn up, to which I had no idea who they were. And I was like, why is this so significant? What is going on here? And then I realised that it was the main characters, and I was just like, Amy!
Literally was like, shit. I recognised that name, because it was quite a, was it quite a unique name, like Skip or something like that?
The boyfriend is, the Scott Michaels or something, yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, this is significant if we had read the first book.
But anyway. Yeah, it matters not. I mean, honestly, you don't have to read them in order. If you want to be a completionist, you can, but we went for 2 and 6 because, well, 6 is a straight sequel tie-in, which I think we've discussed that Rachel probably wrote for the fans. I think for herself, but...
Yeah, I think that there's significantly more popularity and following around this couple more so than any of the other couples that appear in the series.
Hence why we probably ended up reading 2 instead of 1 or 3 or 4.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
let's kick it off. It's ice hockey, and I mean, you do have to suspend disbelief straight away that anybody cares this much about fucking ice hockey.
So the NHL, I'm so sorry everyone, the NHL is real. This is a question, because I'm not really...
Oh, right, okay, sorry, go on. I don't know if I'm going to be answer it, but
the NHL is real.
Yes, National Hockey League.
The teams are fictional.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's fine. I was just curious to know. I could have Googled it when I was reading it, but I'm not a big ice hockey fan. If you're not a big ice hockey fan, don't worry, because there's not that much actual ice hockey in this, to be fair.
Nope, the Boston Bears, it's the Boston Bruins.
Ah.
One of our main characters, Ilya, he plays for the Boston Bruins.
Uh-huh.
And then our other male main character, Shane Hollander, plays for... Oh God, do you know the name of the team? Montreal
Voyagers?
Oh yeah, it is, and it's the Montreal Canadiens in real life.
So
which is the most
bit of artistic license, but
I mean,
rooted in reality.
You've taken a very small amount of artistic license away from Montreal Canadiens. Like, what else were they going to be? Why are the Boston?
What?
Why are the Bostons not the Boston Americans?
Just call them like the Boston hockey players.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
God forbid.
So rooted in reality, and then deviates a little bit.
I think I read a bit about Rachel, and I read a bit about their acknowledgements, and they are a hockey fan.
Okay.
So, I feel like this is a passion project that comes from their own love of ice hockey.
I felt that. I thought that they had a good knowledge of ice hockey.
Yeah.
I don't, but...
To be fair, they could have told me that the puck was called something else, and I'd have probably nodded along.
Yeah.
Puck and stick.
And I couldn't even really picture what anyone was doing at any point. When they were talking about particular moves and things, I was like, oh, that sounds quite cool.
I've watched enough films in my youth where an ice skating girl has to join a hockey team to earn a scholarship to a fancy fucking school to continue her dreams as a figure skater, to understand and have seen a lot of ice hockey. Other than that, that's it. That's my knowledge of ice hockey.
So neither of us have ever watched an actual professional ice hockey team play a match.
No.
Fair. Right, okay, that's fine. Just so we all know where we're at.
Yeah. No.
So if we say anything that is completely wrong, forgive us.
Forgive us immensely, please. So our main characters are Ilya and Shane. There's a bit of timey-wimey timeline manipulation in this book. Like, we meet for the prologue and the first couple of chapters where we have an ice hockey match and we pitch them as rivals together. Then we get taken back in time to when they first met about, I think, 8 years before the prologue, and then the whole present is about 2 years long. Yeah. So the book spans out 10 years.
Yes. Okay, I want to tell you what I have discovered.
Okay.
Now, this might not be true, but there was quite a few reviews to suggest otherwise, and this is a thing, okay? So this book is fan fiction of 2 real hockey players.
Oh, okay.
Sidney Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin.
Okay, so actual similar sort of American and Russian.
2 straight hockey players.
But we're jamming them together.
So
fit.
I just thought that was interesting. I just was wondering where the inspiration came from. Was there actual people that it was based on? And this is, you can go onto fanfic.net and you can search these two people, and there is
a wealth of fanfiction.
There's a lot of fanfiction for them.
Excellent.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, I was really worried you were going to say something like it's Twilight fic.
Oh no! Well, yeah. When I saw it was fanfiction, I thought, oh, okay. And then when I realised it was ice hockey fanfiction, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
You realise you couldn't be that shocked because you don't know any ice hockey players.
That's fine.
Absolutely fair. Yeah. Okay.
So, there you go. A little bit of information for you.
That's fun. Rachel, if you're listening, long time listener, let us know. Yeah, basically let us know. Is that true? Is it fan fiction of these two players?
Maybe.
Or do you think because our two main characters, the reason that it's pitched as sort of an enemies, a sort of a small enemies to lovers, is that their teams, the Boston Bears and the Montreal Voyagers, are big rivals, and then
old rivals.
Both of these guys are centres.
Yes.
And they have like a big. The media and the National Hockey League really puts them up as rivalries. You know, they come up through their rookie year together. They're like 18. They're 17 when they first meet. They're 18 when they first start playing, and you know. So they do get this whole like big old rivalry. So this is why they have to be careful, because their careers are built on this rivalry in a way. Yeah.
So they play for rival teams, but as you say, their careers almost run in parallel.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of hitting all the same.
Yeah.
Huge accomplishments roughly within a couple of years of each other.
Yeah, very American things of like, who's going to be the first draft? Who's rookie of the year?
Who's going to win the Stanley Cup?
I was very much like when they did the rookie of the year awards dinner, I was just immediately thinking of BBC Sports Personality of the Year.
Yeah,
which is just so shit in comparison.
I know, and so boring, and it's on for about 3 hours when it's on. Yeah,
only for the end bit to be like, and this is who it is.
Exactly. Yay, that could have been 15 minutes. Yeah. So yeah, they kind of follow the same rough career trajectory.
Yeah.
Right?
What did you think? Because obviously this isn't really an enemies to lovers. They meet before they're drafted for like a championship tournament or something. They have little tingly feelings.
Yeah.
Shane, who's never been with a man before, which we'll talk about in a moment, do you think you felt different about it because it was sort of pitched at enemies to lovers, but they're fucking well before present day.
I really enjoyed it, but I would put it more rivals to lovers.
Nice.
So a lot of the time you'll get the academic rivals to lovers, whereas this is more sports, I guess, rivals to lovers. So it didn't bother me that it wasn't straight enemies to lovers. Like, I didn't really mind, to be honest. Did you mind? Did you think it took away?
No, I thought it was quite refreshing, actually.
Yeah.
To know that they were already doing the do. I don't know, I've just said that. But to know that they were already having sex was...
I loved the first chapter.
With the prologue or the first chapter? Or the sort of the amalgamation of the both of them?
The part where they have the rival game against one another.
Yeah.
And then Shane goes back to his condo that he has.
His fuck flat.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't let Ilya come to his house.
No, and then Ilya comes to the door and, it's going down. We're in straight away.
We're yelling timber.
I loved it. Like, I thought that was a great start.
It's different as well. I have another question. It's not it's more enemies to lovers related.
Okay.
When do you consider our main characters lovers? Do you consider them lovers when they have sex for the first time, or do you consider them lovers when, it's more your definition of lovers, right? When they say I love you, or they confess some sort of feelings?
I think when it's not just about the sex anymore,
right.
And there's more sort of feelings there, romantic feelings alongside that. Because I think a lot of this is almost hate sex.
Yeah.
They play a hockey match against one another, and then they kind of come back and have sex and like get all those frustrations out because one of them's won and the other team's lost. I wouldn't say that's lovers.
True. But in the if you want to, you describing two people having sex, you could describe them as lovers.
True. Yeah. No, definitely.
It's more of a softer way of saying it, but So that I was just curious on that question, and I'll put it out to the public as well.
Please do.
What on the grand spectrum of lovers, what do you guys class as the end game for enemies to lovers? But yeah, so because we've read both books, we're gonna do this first bit's gonna sort of try and amalgamate the first book and the characters, and then the second section after the little page flip that we know you all love is going to do the second book and the many more characters that we get introduced to.
Yeah, okay. So we're just going to start with the plot.
Yeah, well, other than those two fucking and hockey, there wasn't really much of a plot, was there?
No.
Which is fine. We weren't expecting... That is very much the plot.
I think... The reason why it felt so much more obvious in another book is because Rachel uses time jumps. So we maybe get one or two scenes in 1 month of the year, and then the next chapter we're 2 months down the line.
She very much follows the hockey season.
Yeah.
Like, if it ain't hockey, it ain't happening.
Exactly. What happens out of season, we don't know.
Yeah, true.
No idea. I felt like sometimes their relationship suffered a little bit for that because we didn't quite see what they were doing when they weren't just playing hockey or having sex.
Yeah, I think we get a bit more of that towards the end of the book when Ilya goes to Shane's cottage during the summer.
I really like that bit.
And we get to see them in the off-season together. And we do get a few bits with Ilya going back to Russia.
Yes, because of his dad dying.
Yeah, and also because he goes back after the end of the first season. He always goes back in the off-season.
Yeah.
And he hates it there. So we get a bit of that. We get a bit of convenient plot that Ilya hates Russia, so he would never have to move back there.
And he has no family or any friends or connections, really, because his family are all horrible.
Yep.
So, his mum's dead, his stepmum is... a lot younger than his dad. Yeah,
well, it's not his mum, and all they want from him is money.
Yeah, his brother's using him for money because he's getting himself into all sorts of financial troubles.
Classic.
Yeah, so basically none of his family are people he can rely on.
Yeah.
And does he have any friends in Russia?
Well, not that
we find out about.
No.
So it's a little bit convenient because it means that he doesn't really have to have that long distance thing where it's like, where do we live? Do we live in, I want to see my family, you want to see your family.
Mm-hmm. There's never any dread or threat of him ever moving away.
No, he's going to stay in Canada.
Yeah, or America. Somewhere on the North American continent versus, Who do you prefer? Do you prefer Ilya? I mean, first off, Ilya is very visibly angry, quite cocky, he's exceptionally tall, he's red-headed, he's fiery, obviously, because he's got red hair.
Of course.
And he is an incredibly skilled hockey player. Shane is more lithe. Mm-hmm. He's, thinner, he's prettier. Mm-hmm. He's, Shane's the twink.
Yeah. There's no getting around that.
And Ilya is the bear.
Yeah.
If we're going with gay sort of, terms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who is your favourite? But Shane is also extremely neurotic. I wonder who my favourite is. Did you find that you liked one more than the other?
Shane's a loser and Ilya's great. I think I had a bit more sympathy for Shane than you might have had in the first book.
Okay.
I really enjoyed reading about his sort of journey to accepting his sexuality.
That makes me sound like a big old homophobe.
No, it doesn't. But, I thought he was quite human in the first book. And I felt for him, and he was young, and he was tackling a lot of things. He wanted to be the best possible hockey player he could be. He was a bit of a golden boy.
Yeah, for sure.
He'd always been really good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I really did sympathise with him. But I loved Ilya. Ilya was my favourite character the whole way through.
Yeah, 100%.
But I liked Shane more in book 1. In book 2, my feelings about Shane shifted quite a bit.
We'll talk about that.
What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about... Well, it's Ilya, obviously. Yeah. All my Kindle notes are Ilya's the best. Oh, Ilya's such a bitch. It's so funny. He gets some incredible lines. Rachel's written him so well in terms of just being so fucking sassy.
He's so funny. It was one of those books that I very rarely have read a book where I am actually laughing out loud at the dialogue, but I laughed so much during this.
Yeah, the epilogue for me when he speaks to Hayden and he's like, oh no, how can I impress Montreal's 15th best player?
Yeah, exactly. It's so good.
Brilliant. But I had to Google how many players are on a hockey team after that. Turns out 11.
Okay.
There's 6 on the pitch and then you've got a bunch on the bench. I mean, that is what Google told me. I'm really sorry, guys. This could be completely wrong. But the thing with Shane, I want to address this to people know that I'm not a homophobe.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I minded about Shane's journey. I just think it's a really convenient plot line that people use in straight romance, in queer romance, where one person is conveniently lesser experienced.
Okay. Did it work for you more that they were younger?
Yes, which I suppose something I was going to say, like they're not as sexually active. I think it's if they'd have started from 2016 and we meet them at 26 or 27 or whatever they were, I think I'd have had a much harder time of believing that Shane had never had a penis in his bum before.
Yeah, because he's frequently throughout the whole book, he is very, I would say, confident in that he is gay, right? He's not bi.
Yes.
He has had sexual relations with women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He gets to about... Does he get to about 75% and we find out? Or is it the next book? I forget where it happens, but he does... No, he has come out as gay in the second book.
Yes.
Yeah, we missed that sort of thing.
Yeah. But he doesn't come out to his parents until the end of the first one.
Yes. Oh, he's not out in terms of the hockey league. He's not out in front of everyone. He's out to his teammates.
Yes, that's right.
But... Yeah, so it's his journey. I get it, I do. But for me, it's I'm so chuffed that he has that journey and everything, and anyone reading that, whoever can relate to that. But it is a very convenient plot point of someone needs to be more experienced and sort of thing. And it would have been really interesting for that dynamic to shift because you have Shane, who is a bottom. Mm-hmm. I mean, through both books generally. Mm-hmm. And then you've got Ilya, who's the top. I would have really been interested to see the dynamic shift where Ilya has never sort of had sex with a man before.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of that in the second book, where they did do... There was one of the sex scenes they explored that a little bit, but it was mentioned within that Shane would never be interested in being the top, and Ilya would never be interested in being the bottom. So I think that's how she sort of went, no, that's not going to happen.
It just reinforces the stereotype of people that don't think about tops and bottoms or sort of sexual proclivities and things, that tops are dominant whereas bottoms are submissive.
Yes.
It doesn't normally always happen that way because you have power bottoms and you have so there's that whole element. It just would have been a really interesting dynamic or a fresher dynamic, but do I think it needed to happen in this book? No, this book isn't changing lives.
No, and I'm assuming it is quite stereotypical. We have got a scene where Shane is dominated.
Yes.
Yeah, and he has to be submissive. The scene on the bed in Vegas.
Yeah, that's a hot scene.
It's a hot scene, but I mean, it's a textbook scene for like that stereotypical relationship of the power dynamic.
Very true. Right? Very true.
It's not a bad scene though.
No, it's not. It's not. And we can move on to that. Talk about the smut.
Okay.
So you text me because you raced ahead. Of the first book.
I think I read this in a day.
I read this in one night. So yeah, it was about 6 a.m. when I texted you being like finished.
Yeah, so I think I started it. You were driving with Alex.
Coming up from Southampton, yeah.
And I think I got to 60%.
Yeah, and I think you just like have to go to bed.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I've got stuff tomorrow to do, so I need to sleep. And then you said to me, tell me where you finish, and then you'll get to that point. And then I woke up in the morning, and you were like, I've finished the whole book, and it was like 4 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah,
so I think I finished it the next day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But one of the texts you sent me is you said this is some of the best smut that do you think would you back up and say you've ever read, or would you say like that you'd read for a time? Read for a time.
The reason being is it was very well done. The way it was built up, it was a slow burn, but it was a satisfying slow burn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like certain other books we've just recently read.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That we don't have to name.
So it was... We got little bits and pieces and little scenes, and just enough to keep you thinking, oh, I want to read one more chapter.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen. I think something's going to happen in the next chapter. And it didn't quite happen, but we had another like really kind of tense scene, and maybe there was like text messages or even just their conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. The tension between them, even not just in sex, but they're talking, and because it's a rivalry and because it's very quiet and it has to be secretive, it made it all the more sexier.
It really did. It's very well written forbidden romance too.
Yeah, very true.
If you like that trope.
I mean, you do have to suspend disbelief in a way, like, it can't be that forbidden, but then I suppose we don't live in that culture of hockey and we don't understand that, so maybe somebody who does would get it more. But yeah, for me, especially in the second book, when we can't come out, we can't, not in terms of being gay, that is a challenge, of course, and that is addressed, but then in terms of them ruining their rivalry,
that part annoyed me, because by the second book they had already started a charity together, and I was thinking, people are not going to be that surprised to find that you don't dislike each other. I think they'll be okay to understanding that. I think
the point of that was they build up from pure hatred to begrudged colleagues fighting for a good cause. Yeah. And I think they're trying to rebuild the image of the two of them together.
But again, and you've just said it perfectly there, we don't know. Yeah. It could be something that if there was ever like two rival sports people ended up, they were in a relationship, the backlash could be huge.
What's our equivalent? Football?
I
can't...
footballer?
Why don't we both love rugby. It will be like Finn Russell and Owen Farrell going at it for the last 10 years.
I mean... fair. Okay.
I would be... I would be shocked, but I don't think I would be disgusted and
no, you're not homophobic. So I feel like you...
Thank you so much. Thanks for telling everyone.
You wouldn't be disgusted. But yeah, you wouldn't be angry. Would you be angry?
No, that's it. No, I don't think so.
I would be angry because it's not my business. Like, I'm a fan of the team, but I'm not... I deserve to know about your personal life.
Yeah, I think I would be more angry at the institution for them for feeling like they couldn't come out.
Totally.
But is that just us as decent people?
I think so. And I think there may be a stereotype of the kind of people that maybe follow hockey, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe there are some hockey fans that are, they have like traditional views and they wouldn't be accepting, and there's that element of it. And also there is maybe a real actual hatred there for the other team, and it's like, how could you betray your team by...
Yeah, I think I understand the betrayal felt from the team. Yeah. Their closest friends and things, closest friends, like their colleagues or whatever. Yeah. That I can understand, and that, but then I suppose, again, we're not celebrities, and there is a weird celebrity culture where we do have this element of like the public thinks they have the right to every single part of people's lives.
I mean, and I think it's worse now because of the internet. Like the idea of like a parasocial relationship, it's almost like, hang on a minute, you did this, why didn't you do that? I know you, why didn't you do that?
The shit that, is it Luke Newton got?
Did he?
Post season 3 of Bridgerton, so the day after I think it had, the second part had come out, he was pictured with his girlfriend or a rumoured girlfriend, and people were shitting on him, being like, oh, guess it meant nothing to you, or like, as quick as you could, you seen with another girl or whatever, because him and Nicola are really good friends, and they were on the press tour, like, looking really cosy and stuff.
But he never did anything more than what Nicola did.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't lead her on.
That's it, and that's what I think people were thinking.
Yeah, but, that's not healthy though.
Yeah, exactly. But so maybe that is something that Rachel's trying to talk about as like, this is the kind of level of fans that this NHL Canada has, America has, that sort of thing.
And I like that, but I didn't see it in the book.
No, you don't get a lot of fan interaction.
No, because they never want to look at themselves on the internet. They never Google themselves, which again, I get it. If I was famous, then I wouldn't want to look up people's opinion of me, because I can imagine for every lovely thing that's said, there's like 10 horrible things.
100%.
But I think it would have made more sense if we'd seen that side of things, so that we could understand a bit more about why they were so reluctant to share it. Yeah, and I do think we get a little bit more in the second book about like upper management and like the president of the hockey league and stuff. Like, I mean, I think Rachel wanted to give us a villain, you know,
and wanted to, and not unjustifiably vilify this guy, but like, to almost have him as a figurehead of like queer hating and you know, to have someone as this physical visible villain.
And I got it. I understood why she did it.
100%.
Yeah. So I can't say it wasn't well done. It was just a bit like, oh, we've got a villain now. Kind of came from nowhere, but it was the second book. We had to have something, right?
Very true. Alright, so we didn't really do a lot about plot, but as we discussed, there wasn't a lot of plot.
No.
And to be fair, in terms of character, you don't get an awful lot of supporting characters, or any sort of supporting character development in the first book, because it is really solely focused on Ilya and Shane.
It is.
You get a bit of Shane's mum and dad.
A little bit.
Which is kind of cute. And like we said, we mentioned before about Ilya's Russian family, who are all a bunch of scumbags.
Yep.
And then you get a few tidbits about teammates, but nothing substantial, I would say.
No, I would agree. Yeah, that's fair to say. I think the first book's very much about them, and
I look, it's not an over criticism really. No. Like this is not a criticism because it is just about the two of them, and it makes sense that when they're together, it is just the two of them, and they try and block out the rest of the world because they're not living. Yeah. They're not living their real lives.
I would say, though, that if that's something if you like a plot-driven story, then you may find the fact that most of it is playing hockey, having sex, or talking about / thinking about the other person, you might find it a little bit of a drag. But I never did. No. I was always really into it.
I was completely immersed in their relationship.
Me too.
I did enjoy the bit where they get found out by Shane's dad, though. He's come over to find some dishwasher tabs or something.
Yes,
or someone
he phoned them and he had ignored the call, but he was calling to say, like, can I come to the cabin?
I knew immediately because they were fooling around in the lake, and I was just like, his phone. He's left his phone, and then he's going to see his phone. Oh, loads of missed calls from Dad. I'm like, because they live very close, he's just going to pop round.
Dad's coming round.
And then they're like kissing, and yeah.
It was quite refreshing though. I understand. I actually thought it was fine that his dad kind of drove away. Yeah. Because he had to process what he'd just seen.
I love that he goes and just tells the mum straight away. Doesn't decide to keep it to himself or anything.
No. I loved that scene.
One of Ilya's best lines is when he puts on a Boston Bears t-shirt and Shane says, I don't think that's going to help. And he goes, oh, what, they don't know I play for Boston?
I know, it's so good.
Brilliant. Yeah. Utterly brilliant.
Really dry humour. So well done though.
And I think that must be an extension of Rachel's own humour, because to write it so well and convincing, you've got to have that sense of humour. I have to applaud her. The way she writes Ilya is incredible.
Oh yeah, I'm not, well, maybe I'm just sort of projecting, but it felt like she had a little bit of a soft spot for Ilya.
Yes, it wouldn't surprise me if the two people they're based off, or meant to be based off of in terms of fanfic, that Rachel might have had posters of the Russian hockey player in her room when she was a young girl or something. Like, I get the sense that she has her favourites.
Yes. Maybe that's her team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk characters, because we do see character development, or certain characters changing slightly. Yeah. From the first book to the second book. Yeah.
And I do think we get a bit more of a plot in the second book.
Yeah, oh definitely.
It's not much, but it is
much.
There.
A lot of it's about getting a dog, but it's there.
Oh God, honestly, I thought he was going to end up with the mascot, and I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mind. I wouldn't have minded because it's a fucking cute dog, but like it was building up to that, and I was like, oh, here comes the mascot, and no, then it was another dog.
Another dog. Yeah, a cute storyline.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. Ilya faces a lot of mental health and has a really interesting character arc in the second book.
Yeah.
But I remember texting you, like, just being like, this is just fucking this man, Ilya. So he basically, their long-term plan is to start the charity together. Ilya moves away from the very successful Boston Bears to go and play in Canada and Ottawa.
Yep.
At a team that's never won a Stanley Cup.
No.
They're in a pish fucking poor audience attendance, that sort of thing.
Are they in another, like, a lower division?
No, I don't think so, because they still play...
They play Shane.
Or maybe it's fictional, I don't know, I don't know. yeah, he downgrades himself to go and play in a place that's only 2 hours away, and then they'll see each other more. And it's that element, and then we spent maybe a third. Yeah, I text you basically saying a third of this novel is Shane having no fucking idea, or being so completely ignorant that Ilya has given up his entire life, and Shane has given up nothing. All of Shane's friends know. So, well, Shane's mum and dad know that he's with Ilya. Shane's best friend Hayden on the team knows. The lassie he's meant to be, the lassie he was seeing in book one, the celebrity, the actress, she knows.
So she knows. Okay, yeah. I mean, I would say that the extent of Shane's character development in the second book is that he grows his hair long. I feel like nothing else really happens with Shane until maybe the last...
Well, they have that confrontation.
Yeah, and then he kind of steps up to the plate.
Yeah. Does he, though? Does he step up to the plate, or does he have a bit of a fucking panic attack about it, and does he somehow manage to make it all about him?
He makes a lot all about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. He says some very hurtful things. I don't think he means to be hurtful, but he makes a lot of snide comments about, like, oh, well, your team's not ever going to win the Stanley Cup, etc.
Yep.
Don't worry about it. And I didn't like the way he was at all about Ilya's diet. He makes a lot of comments about, oh, are you having that? Or should you be eating that? Oh, what breakfast are you having? It's not very nutritional. And you're like...
Whilst he's also eating like a rabbit, or eating this ridiculous, like, he keeps talking about how he has this long list of things he can't eat, but never does he consider that Ilya still plays an incredible game of hockey, despite having... And I think it's done in a weird way, because Ilya never... It's an element of control that a lot of partners see in domestic abuse situations, where they control what you eat. Ilya doesn't listen to him, so it doesn't matter to Ilya, like, thankfully. So, he doesn't actually end up going down that route or whatever, but it must tear at him, or
I think it must. I think it would, wouldn't it? If you kept getting those little comments made every day, you would start to think, why do you feel the need to comment on my diet?
Yeah.
I actually thought we were going to get like an eating disorder storyline from Shane.
Yeah.
And I think he would have been a more sympathetic character had we had that.
Fair.
But it sounds and that maybe would have explained why he was so controlling about Ilya, because he felt he had a lack of control perhaps in his own life.
Yeah.
But then that almost at the end disappears, because he has a Snickers bar and then he has like a cheeseburger or something, and it's all fine again.
I think it's more linked towards their aging.
So he's aware of his like own mortality.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I think he says something like, we're not... I think Ilya, or one of them says something, I want to play for as long as possible. So I think it's more of maybe a talk or a conversation around, like, sports people not being able to, have lifelong careers because they put their bodies through so much and they need to be at top peak physical thing. But yeah, it does not make him, it makes him a villain.
It does, and it was really odd to me because it started quite early in, right? And I think it was like maybe chapter 1 or chapter 2 of book 2, we were already seeing that Shane, in my opinion, had changed quite a bit.
Yeah, and I wonder whether we were less tolerant as well because they're together. It's cemented. Do you know?
Maybe.
We're now watching not a married couple, but the relationship troubles of someone, of people quite up close. So we're gonna get snipes. We're gonna get things like that. So maybe if we'd have come to it, say, because they're written a few years apart.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rachel wrote 3, 4, 5, and then came back, like we said, I think potentially 4 with Fan pushing. Mm-hmm. And, so maybe if we'd have waited, because we went straight from one into the other, so maybe
that's true.
Contrasting young Ilya and Shane, who are, new love, but then they're not that far from the end of book 1.
No.
It's about a year. Is it? If that.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like quite jarring.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
I was a bit like, that doesn't feel like Shane. Like, that doesn't feel like the kind of thing he would say. And then he did say it, and also the sort of idea that he became a little bit like, oh, he's not ambitious anymore. Doesn't even really. He's not in a very successful team. Like, you're like, come on, Shane. He gave up a successful team to move to Ottawa to be closer to you.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I loved it very much, and I loved reading it. But very obvious plot point of how Shane realises that all the Voyagers are massive cunts, except from Hayden and I suppose JJ eventually. But then you've got the Ottawa team who are much more found family vibes, much more tolerant of each other, tolerant of Ilya, tolerant of like queer. It's like because you get members of or some of the team or new people in the team that you get introduced to have been in previous books. So you get an awful lot of like the characters that were queer in the previous books and the Game Changer book series are surrounding Ottawa.
You're totally right, because I'm thinking you get the social media manager of the team, Harris, is in a relationship with one of the
players,
right? Yeah, so it's all in that kind of one team.
Yeah,
right.
And so you know where it's going. Rachel's setting up this super queer team.
Yeah.
Where you know eventually that Shane will leave the Voyagers because they're a bunch of dicks.
And join
Ottawa. And the two of them together will take them to...
It was a little bit cheese fest.
It was,
but I allowed it because it was sweet, and I liked the team, and I thought, I want to see them play together rather than play like rivals.
It was all very twee and quite perfect.
Yeah,
not for him to just slot it. Oh yeah, no, they can't. They mentioned at the end like they can't afford me. It's like, oh, I think maybe they will, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I just didn't really pay much attention to that.
And they were both centres, so would they really have spent that much money to have like two superstar?
Considering there's only 6 people on the team on the rink, mad.
Yeah.
That 2 of them are centres and one of them's the goalie.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Exactly.
Someone Who Loves Ice Hockey, tell us how that would work in a real life scenario.
Yeah. Would they really be able to afford a Shane when they've already got an Ilya, and when they don't really need a Shane because they're both evenly matched, right?
Yeah.
They're both equally as good as the other.
Yeah, but if they have both of them, they could win everything.
Yeah.
Which I think the inference is at the end that Ottawa's going to go on to win every Stanley Cup in existence.
But only because Shane's part of the team now.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to see them do it themselves.
I also did that, I did that. But then I think, would it have been unrealistic? So we get the playoffs, and they managed to beat...
Yes.
They managed to beat the Voyagers.
They do.
Yeah! Fuck you guys. I didn't understand where they had to play 6 fucking games. I thought playoff meant you played one team and then whoever won advanced.
Yes, that's right, because they referenced something about
the next game we won, and then the next game they won.
And then it's like, it's game 6 or 6 game or something, like some sport term that basically means this is the last game that you need to play because
apparently
there's 5 more before that. No idea.
But whatever.
Fine. Yeah, it's a little bit twee, a little bit, as you say, like, oh, of course that would happen, but let's face it, we're not looking for like a really realistic hockey.
No, we're not coming here for...
No.
Yeah, we're not coming here for realistic expectations, especially considering you and I don't know the realistic expectations of a hockey league.
That could happen. Maybe it happens every week.
Maybe it does. How did you feel about them being outed? We knew it was coming. Guys, like, they do really well to hide it for 10 years in the first book. They then get together sort of with intention, and then essentially they get outed by Hayden, Shane's best friend and teammate, doing a cameo, which they don't call cameo because I fucking love it in books when people think they're going to get sued.
Yeah.
So they make silly, is it like called face video or
something
some
like
shit?
that.
And he's doing a cameo, and in the back of the cameo, through a window, I didn't understand the placement of the rooms.
I didn't really understand either.
In the back, basically Ilya and Shane are going at each other's mouths. I was going to say going at it, and then it makes it sound as if they're banging, but no, they're having a very convincing
And to
snog.
be fair, knowing them, they probably would have been banging.
So true.
Yeah, I mean, if I was filming a face video, wouldn't you use your front-facing camera so you could see yourself?
Yeah.
So wouldn't you then know that there was people in the background kissing?
From what it sounds like, it sounds as if he's held it at such a that they are very, very small in the background. I don't know. Logistically wise, I'm not sure. I think we just have to again suspend disbelief. How many times have we said this episode?
Yeah. The takeaway is they're outed.
Yes, and I think, like I said before, we both knew it was going to happen. They weren't going to get to come out on their own terms, or else there would be no threat.
I was a bit disappointed, I think, for them, because I really wanted it to be a bit more like, yeah, you know, we're coming out, we've made our decision, we're living our life on our own terms. Is that realistic? I don't know. Because she's making a commentary about maybe like the parasocial relationship with fans, is that where that comes from? That social media has played a huge part in this already, and it's going to play that final part in kind of outing them, I suppose. I didn't love it.
I didn't love that they were outed, but then, like you said, it's it was what we were expecting. They weren't going to get that sort of, you know, and everything comes good in the end.
Yeah.
So, you know, there is that bit of like it was almost like a third act breakup in a way.
Yeah.
Along with the third act breakup that we get. But of course, which we can discuss. But yeah, it just seemed, I don't know how else they could have been outed, because they are exceptionally careful. I have to give her credit. I thought they were going to be seen in a hotel, but she makes it extremely obvious that they look out in like hotel rooms and things when they're visiting each other. They look at, check the corridors clear.
I just don't buy it. Like, can you imagine how famous you would be, and there would be people everywhere, right? And there was even a part, I'm sure, where Shane goes to Ilya's house.
Why would there not be press camped outside?
Wouldn't paparazzi be there? And they would be why would Shane Hollander be turning up at his house or leaving in the morning? Like,
that is very true. Yeah,
I'm not saying that it's not realistic they were outed, because I think because of the spotlight that's on them and how much they're under that in a microscope, they would be, because it'd be hard to hide it. But I think the fact that it was in such a kind of like anti-climactic kind of cheap way, when they'd managed to avoid being found out for so long, I was a bit like, oh, okay.
I understand that. Yeah, it was through no one's actual detective or investigative work, despite however much anyone would think it was weird, like, you know.
Yeah.
But it was from Hayden's fucking cameo.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I wonder whether that gives credit to no one, you know? Again, she's avoided making anyone who is sort of close to them or in the team villains, except from when the Voyagers are a little bit suspicious. You know, and that's and sort of are a bit mean to Shane when he gets like ousted, sort of like they think he tripped on purpose and let Ilya score the winning goal.
Yeah.
Nobody cares as much about ice hockey, guys.
I know. I did like the fact that and if this isn't right, then remind me, but I did enjoy the fact that the team weren't homophobic. Like, they didn't say... Did they say that it was because that he was in a gay relationship, or did they say it was because...
It was with Ilya. Yeah.
It was Ilya.
I think there's a point, whether or not that's them doth protesting too much, you know.
Fair.
Or whether or not they've got an excuse to be shitty to him because it's Ilya, and therefore, I mean, they are homophobes, and they're covering over the fact that I'm not sure 100%, but it almost, I think it's tried to make clear that the teams, at least, it's, I've got no problem with you because it's not because you're gay, it's who you're with, you know.
Yeah, they're using it as an excuse almost.
And a crutch, yeah.
And then saying things like, oh, you're gonna like you're gonna deliberately lose the game and things like that. Yeah.
I think that's definitely a crutch for them, and I also think Rachel leaves that ambiguous.
Fair. Yeah.
To leave it open-ended, because it's like you don't know everyone's mind, right?
No, and it saves us having to write some horrible slurs and things in the book, which I was really pleased we didn't.
Yeah, we do get references to slurs.
We do.
But
I felt like there was going to be a really horrible scene, though, where like maybe one of the teammates would say something, gosh, but we didn't get that.
I think overall the cultural element of the hockey and realising why it's still quite taboo for sports athletes in general to come out and be gay, not from like me and you, because we're class, in general from like, you know, federations and you know, realising that their careers whilst you know they are who they are and they play incredibly well. You know, they aren't afraid to be benched.
Yeah.
Or told, you know, that the coaches answer to a higher body.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's a really interesting dynamic that I hadn't really thought about much. And I'm glad that we read a queer hockey romance specifically, so that we would get that, you know. Or I just don't think it would have had the same gravitas if it was a male and a female on different, you know, one place for the female team of the Boston Bears and the other place for Montreal Voyageurs, but it's men's team.
No,
you know, I don't think it would have had the same gravitas.
And I guess the element of like toxic masculinity as well.
Yeah.
Like, as you say, they're maybe not outwardly going to be homophobic, but they have that entrenched within them because they've been in a masculine environment for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, they're almost like a product of...
And ice hockey is obviously very violent.
Yes. We see one scene where that is shown to us when Shane gets injured.
Knocked out and concussed, Which I think I text you being like, how did nobody realise? Because he says out loud, he gets concussed and he's like, Ilya, we're not alone, they can see us. And no one mentions it again.
Because you would be a bit like... What does that mean? Like, you apparently don't like each other. Why would that even come to your mind? Yeah, you're totally right.
I think maybe a lot, the concussion is carrying a lot of that plot on its back there. Oh, he's saying stuff he doesn't mean. He's crazy. What's going on?
No, that's true. One final question.
Hit me.
Did you feel like Ilya had lower expectations and lower kind of standards of what Shane could do than Shane had of him?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I think Ilya was more in love with Shane, or it was written as if he was more in love with Shane than Shane was with Ilya. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely all up until potentially the end and the resolution of book 2.
Is that because there was the plane crash? Well, it wasn't a crash, but it was an almost plane crash, and then Ilya wrote the text message to Shane and Shane realised he could lose him.
Yeah, I think it was more with the confrontation when Shane says to him, would you give up hockey for me? That whole scene where, and Ilya's like, I already have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you haven't realised the sacrifices that I have made for you.
Yeah, so I think, and then the panic that Shane has after that, and whilst it's still quite self-involved, I think there's a moment there where, you know, he realises that Ilya is more to him than, or like he should be showing him that he's more to him.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, all the way through there was a strange power dynamic of Ilya fell first. Ilya was very affectionate, more so. Shane held him at arm's length.
Yeah.
They had the same feelings, they did, but Ilya was definitely more open to showing them and trying it. And
probably, would have came out sooner. Would have told everybody.
Yes,
much sooner than Shane would.
A lot of a lot of the plot of book 2 focuses on Ilya's isolation. The fact that nobody knows who Ilya is close to. They don't even know he's bisexual.
No.
And nobody knows that his, you know, and that is by Shane being like, I don't think you should tell anyone.
No. Yeah.
But Shane has all the support.
Exactly.
But then we get a lot of like Ilya's mental health journey with his mother having committed suicide and him worrying that he may end up that way because he's depressed, and he sees a therapist and that helps him work through a lot of things and helps him set boundaries, etc. But yeah, what I liked about that is it wasn't too preachy.
No.
Sometimes I feel like in a setting, if his mother hadn't already been mentioned with being depressed and, you know, that sort of things, I would worry that was put in there as a point of being like, oh, and look at this other character development arc they could be.
Like he's a really well developed character because he has mental health
issues. That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same like boom in books for me because I just assume we all have mental health issues.
Yes. I actually loved the fact that he continued to stay on that journey. Like, he was never cured. Like,
yes.
Even in the last, maybe not the epilogue, but the last chapter, he's taking his antidepressants with his breakfast in the morning, and Shane's reminding him to take his pills and things. I liked that because it was realistic, because it is an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
And you don't really ever, I don't think, from my own experience, are cured from it, right?
You finished therapy. Nailed it, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Tick box.
So I actually quite liked that, and I thought it
Yeah.
was quite a good representation, in my opinion.
It's the very best of the worst of contemporary romance, or contemporary stories, right? It's included.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like you said, it can be realistic, like what we see in this book, of like he's never really finished, and it's acknowledged that you're never really finished working on yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes I think in things that aren't as real, so like fantasy, and you'll never hear me shit on fantasy, so record this and put it everywhere, or save it for your little phones and stuff. If somebody is depressed in this fantasy world, they do tend to then get better.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can be in a place where your depression doesn't rule you.
You can.
But it's never mentioned again.
Exactly. Whereas I think if there was a third book, then it would continue to be something that Ilya deals with. And
yeah, I don't think it would be the focal point, but he'd probably still be going to therapy. Yeah. And I even like the bit where he says he doesn't go to her for a while because things are good.
Yeah.
And
I like that too.
And it's even noted that just like, yeah, you can have your good moments, but you still got to work through. Yeah. You still got to do the work. So,
and it's no reflection on his relationship with Shane, because a lot of the time I think there's mentions of like, oh, I wish you didn't feel this way, I wish you didn't have the sad days and things like that. But it's a bit like, well, that's nothing to do with you. That's his own personal journey that he's on, and it doesn't. Shane, it's something to do with you, okay?
Oh God, not all of book 2 is apparently about you. Anyway, final thoughts.
Okay, would you recommend this book, this series, let's say the duology, to a friend?
I think I have in my head friends that I could recommend this series to, but I don't think I would recommend it to everyone.
Okay.
I think, this is a holiday read, and I mean that in a sense of like, or getting you out of a book slump, or like a really nice sort of easy read, not a bunch of high stakes, in terms of, you're not being thrown in any sort of info dump. All you have to do is believe that hockey is real, and believe that loads of people fucking love ice hockey.
That's it, and people care about it apparently.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't even think there's a lot lost in terms of like culture shifts. Like, it's America, isn't it? So it's I will say, you do have to suspend disbelief, because Ilya is really Russian, and the amount of times they mention he likes vodka, Jesus, I think I wrote on my things being like, Ilya is Russian, or like Russian being Russian, or
yes, and it has to be a very specific kind of vodka that you only can get in Russia, and it has to be like ice cold, straight from the freezer.
Yeah. If you mix that with cranberry juice, I will drown you in the lake. And my note is, Russians be Russian.
That's it.
Like, yeah,
we get it.
So yeah, just it's fun, and it makes you go a bit like, wee,
Yeah.
And yeah, very low stakes, but also nice message. But I don't think I would maybe recommend this to people that fucking love like epic fantasy. Solely.
Yeah.
Guys, you need to take a break from all this questing of 600-page books to read this ice hockey romance. What about yourself?
Similar. There are people that I know who would like it. Is it for everybody? Probably not. Is it for every mood and occasion? I'd say no. Definitely use it for a book slump, I think would be a good one. And as you say, you don't really need to know very much going into it.
Yeah. Take
it for what it is. It's a really sweet story. It's a really, I think it's a nicely developed relationship. Like, you're not going to love them all the time, but that's real life, isn't it?
Yeah, I also really like that in the 6 books in the Game Changer series, you almost get a little bit of everything. There's a rom-com, there's sort of a sexy, edgy, enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers. You get like other types of like, rebounds, forbidden that sort of thing. She transcends a lot of rom-com tropes across all, so there's a little bit of something for everybody. So even if these don't sound like your cup of tea, you can go and have a listen, or have a read of the others.
Yeah, and it's well written.
I
thought.
Yeah.
It was really compelling, and I don't think it's easy to make a book about just two people in a relationship all that compelling, because
Agreed.
there's not that, as you were saying before, the stakes are not all that high.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very readable.
Yeah.
And we both absolutely smashed it in like a day, less than a day. So I mean,
it took me a bit longer to read the second one.
Yeah, me too.
But I think that again, we put that down to what we said before of like they're together now, so it's a lot less like.
I think you're similar to me in that you don't really, you're not as all in when they're together.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like I don't love a sequel typically. I read it because I really liked the characters and I really wanted to see. And the first book finishes on quite an ambiguous ending.
Yeah, their plans put into place. Yeah, and they're hopeful.
Yeah, but to be honest, I think it would have been quite nice to just stand by itself.
And I wonder whether it was always intended to. Yeah. And then maybe we've said it again, the fans prodded Rachel into it. And yeah, fair, why not?
Or they could have cameoed, but they could have cameoed in other books, and maybe that's what she was thinking
about. They probably do.
Yeah.
Let's all be honest. Yeah. They probably do, we just haven't read them. So.
Would you read them?
No.
None of them really stand out to me as
it's not
ones to read.
I feel like I've read them. You know, I feel like, we know, because the long game is, I don't know, is it the last one or like whatever, it feels like all the characters that I would care about are in the last book. Fair. But I would also say it's a nice genre palette cleanser.
I agree. And it was different for me. I'd never read a sports romance before, so that was quite interesting. Apart from was it Icebreaker, that one?
Yeah.
But this felt different again because it was ice hockey, which I don't really know much about, but also it was like professional sports and like all that comes with it. I thought that was quite interesting to read about.
Fair.
But I wouldn't continue with the series.
Fair. In terms of other recommendations, I could recommend you The Foxhole Court. It is a trilogy. It is lacrosse. It is so it is gay. There are some. Have a look at the trigger warnings, because there is a bit of trigger warnings of sexual assault and things like that. And I think it's not necessarily a Marmite series, but definitely proceed with caution. But that's what I think I would recommend.
I'm not actually sure, because as I say, this was one of my first ever sports romances. However, when I was looking and researching to find this book, there are loads that are like similar level of popularity.
Okay.
But I think football seems to be a big one.
Yeah. Sapphic ones, you could do cleat cute,
right?
Like a play on words of meet cute. For football, Sapphic.
Nice.
But,
yeah. Fair.
Yeah. New genre for you. Do you think it's something you will continue in? Not necessarily ice hockey, but will you have a look again? Will you look again at the sports romance genre?
It's probably not going to be one that I would think to pick up. Sports. I don't like sports that much, apart from rugby. Yeah, so, and it's no, that's no reflection on any of the books. I'm sure they're well written, but I just can't see myself like, sometimes when you finish a book and you think, this is so good, I want to read another one, I need to find another book similar. I'm thinking like fantasy romance here, but you know what I mean? You're almost like, I've not got my fill of that yet.
Yeah.
I think I have for now.
Maybe when you've had your fill of romantasy, a sports romance will bring you back. But
yeah,
fair enough.
Never say never, but it's not on the top of my list to read another one.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What are we reading? What can people expect from us next week, Amy?
Well, next week we are talking about an extremely popular book.
We're selling out.
We absolutely are. I think it's got something like so many million reviews on Goodreads.
Flipping it.
It is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden.
And is this did we say this is a thriller? Is this a horror?
It is a thriller. Okay. And that is very much Frida McFadden's bag. So I have read a few. I've read Ward D by her. And I highly recommend them. And I've also read The Gift. Just having a look there to see what I have read. So I think, well, from what I've read of her so far, you're looking for twists. Mm-hmm. You are going to be sitting at the end thinking, whoa, I didn't expect that.
Okay. So we're hoping for a bit less easy to guess than A Flicker in the Dark, basically.
Let's see, but you made the great point with Flicker in the Dark that if an author does their job well and leaves the breadcrumbs for the reader to find, then, you should maybe be not so much guessing the twist, but you shouldn't be
on
like,
your way.
Whoa, you know.
Fair.
So I'm excited for you to read it.
And of course we know that you and I guess everyone before the book is done. So at some point we have guessed it correctly.
Yes.
But let's see. Who knows? We will see you next week, guys. Thank you so much. Please remember to follow us on Instagram, on TikTok at PageTurnersPod. Our Patreon will have, at some point, hopefully by the time this goes out, a 25 minutes section of all... We talk in depth about the smut that is in this book.
Yep.
And yeah, maybe we'll throw some other stuff on there because we have neglected the Patreon.
We have.
But yeah, email us at podcastpageturners@gmail.com. Someone still has to claim the book.
One day we will click that inbox icon and there will be
an email waiting for us.
One little email.
The specification is you need to send us about 250 to 300 words about a book that we've read that will give you a shout out on the podcast, and you get one of the books that we've read. We'll send you one of the books.
What a deal.
What a deal. It's just an unofficial giveaway that you and I just keep forcing because we want someone to email us. Oh, Laura, Hannah, Alex, you guys are exempt from that.
Yes.
So,
yeah, sorry. We need to have someone that we don't personally know.
Yeah, true. Agreed. Doing that, yes. But yeah, we'll see you next week, guys. Happy reading.
Bye.